Welcome to the Buzz Podcast. I'm your host, Mosquito.
And I'm Maureen Nylin.
The Buzz Podcast is where business, technology, and innovation collide. It's where we deep dive into candid conversations with leaders who are pushing the boundaries in healthcare, technology, and beyond.
It's also where you're going to hear industry experts who are rewriting the rules, and in some cases, they're breaking them. So don't forget to join us for each new episode and like and subscribe to the Buzz Podcast.
Welcome to the Buzz Podcast, where we deep dive into healthcare business, emerging technology, and sales, and everything in between that's shaking up our industry today. I'm your host, Mike Mosquito, and along with my technologist and innovative co-host, Maureen Nylin, we're here to provide a great segment and episode for you today. Maureen, how you doing?
I'm awesome, Mike. Thank you so much for asking. And I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today because it's something that is always evolving and it's not an area that I really have a lot of expertise in. So we've invited an expert who's going to talk to us about how healthcare is shifting with emerging technologies, what they're doing with branding and sales strategies.
Definitely. And we have the perfect guest. He's a friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. Aaron Hillman is joining us today. He's the Senior Director of Marketing and Healthcare Informatics at Philips. Aaron, welcome to the Buzz.
Mike and Maureen, thank you all for having me today. I'm so thrilled to be here with you and looking forward to our conversation.
Well, it's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So Aaron, I'm always about knowing more about the person. So I want to just start really at the beginning. You don't have to go all the way back, but maybe just tell me how you got into marketing and why you went into healthcare marketing specifically.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to take you all the way back for just a split second. So healthcare is in my blood. My father was a clinician, a radiologist. My mother was a senior administrator at a major academic medical center in Central Virginia. And I actually, one of my first jobs as the first like official paycheck you get, I was a film tech in the radiology department at the University of Virginia. And so I worked in the film library and, 15, 16 years old, was fetching labs and films. And that was some of my earliest exposure. As an adult, I started off in commercial sales, B2B, and was making some changes in the early 2000s and found healthcare technology. That was the early days of what I like to call the EMR revolution, and found myself at Meditech being a marketing support representative. In those days, what that meant was we traveled around the country in droves, visited healthcare systems in every single nook and cranny of the United States. And we demonstrated software, really the proof in the pudding. It wasn't your typical marketing efforts, but it really proved credibility around why the software did what it did, right? And we spent time with the actual end users, the C-suite, the clinicians, the radiology departments, depending on what element of the software, of course, for the audits you were talking to. That evolved in my time there into what I think might have been one of the earliest physician advocacy, or what I liked to call the physician liaison programs, in which we actually worked with C-suite clinicians, primarily CMIOs, to teach them how to demonstrate the software. We worked with and recruited them into the program at Meditech. They were existing users. And we brought them on the road with us, right? And so we had them demonstrating to their peers why the software worked. And of course, that evolved into thought leadership, panels, advisories. The early days of trade show marketing, or let's call it engagement marketing, were very flexible in terms of all the different things you could do, right? And so it was really a pleasure sort of being at the early stages of what we've developed into now, which is this level of technology and how we impart our information. Along the way, it's been really an interesting journey. I spent time with Nuance in the IDN and academic segment for their clinical documentation solution, what we all now know as Dragon One. I was part of the team, the marketing team that brought that to market. It's a real honor to be there for that. And then, of course, I spent some time at GE Healthcare. I led global solutions marketing for the Vendor Neutral Archive solutions there, and I worked closely across the digital and field marketing teams, and of course, very closely with the commercial and customer success oriented teams. From there, I actually had a bit of a divergence from product-based marketing into what we called central marketing. And so that was a real honor as well, to lead a team that was focused on marketing communications, analyst relations, events and exhibits. We had marketing operations as part of that. And so it was really a diverse group of people that brought marketing to life and really put it into the world as part of their mission. And that was still as part of the GE Healthcare Digital Group. From there, I took a little bit of a leap into startup land, and I led enterprise marketing for Butterfly Network. For those of you out there in the world that don't know Butterfly, it's handheld ultrasound.
Yeah.
Right? Really revolutionary, really cool technology. My remit there was to actually figure out how we marketed the enterprise solutions software, right? Which is really essential from an ultrasound perspective, because without that, it didn't happen, right? In healthcare, we know that if you don't document it, it never happened. And that is a critical component to really driving value in handheld ultrasound for healthcare systems. And so that was a really fun journey. Moved from there into the role that I'm in now, but a little bit of a different twist in the business when I joined Philips. But what we call my team is the client and industry engagement team. And so for all intents and purposes, we think across the business, across the different verticals that are within the healthcare informatics business, to look at how we drive engagement with our clients and all of these different kinds of modern engagement processes and programs. In addition, we also work very closely with the industry partners, so HIMSS and Chime and Becker's and Health and all of the different other groups that put on these engagement opportunities. And we build the relationships there and create for our internal teams the opportunity to work with them and drive their solution value, Philips's overall value, through different opportunities like this, but also all the other thought leadership and engagement, both live, digital, and a variety of different kinds of media. As part of that, there's a lot here. We also drive what we call the customer advocacy program. And so within that is all of our KOLs, our thought leaders, sort of a speakers bureau, if you will. And of course, we partner across all of Philips, not just within the healthcare informatics business, but the Philips Medical Office, the regional designations that span across businesses, to make sure we're touching as many different people as is humanly possible in order to push out the message of Philips.
Wow.
Wow, you've had quite a journey.
Yeah.
It's been a journey, and it's been so fun, guys. And it's how I meet people like you all. And it's how we learn about really what the healthcare systems are doing, what the leaders are trying to do, and how we stay on top of evolving technology in a way that's truly meaningful.
And that journey is necessary for you to learn what happened in the past, how you got to this point here. Let's talk about that shift that's happening in marketing, because you've seen it. You've had to live in it. Let's talk about that shift that's happening in marketing today, because it's definitely not the same playbook we had 10 years ago, not even 5 years ago. This market has changed, which is why the buzz has come about. It's a marketing engine. That's what we are. We're a branding and marketing engine here. And for our media sponsors on this, they have a plan that we put together for them that gives them more than just a single point of interest on a talk track and a visual track. So that's the premise behind today's marketing. Where do you need to be? How are you enabling sales? How are you getting to the right people at the right time? And so with that being said, you've been able to see this shift in marketing, and it makes sense for you, Aaron, that what's changing today in that space. Tell me what you see this changing. And I know that Philips is a big brand out there with a lot of big trends that they're focusing on, and we can see them happening on stage. But tell me, what do you think is going to be some of the biggest trends that are going to hit us over the next 1 to 3 years?
Well, I think you called it out really well there, Mike, which is it's why I'm here with you all today, right? So there's always good reason to do things like LinkedIn and social posts. There's always good reason to put thought leaders on speaking opportunities, whether it's digital or in person at events like Vive or HIMSS or some of the other ones that health through the year, right? Um, but we've got to find ways to reach the masses, and marketing is a one-to-many art and science. And so we have to find the continuous evolution of how we tell our stories through a variety of different outlets, right? And so to me, the thing that is actively changing is a couplefold. I think we're going from this super high polished, very formatted medium of professionally created video and content to much more conversational things like this 30 second to 3 minute videos telling the value about something, the roving reporter sort of program on the floor with the new gyroscopic phone holders and Bluetooth microphones. It's really about, I think, telling the story in the moment, because things are moving so fast, right? The development of technology, the evolution of what we are doing from so many different perspectives within this industry, we have to be agile, right? And so to me, that's actually, I couldn't predict what's next exactly, but we're placing bets on things too.
Right.
Yeah. So obviously you can't predict what's next, but would you then say, looking back, should we just scrap the whole traditional marketing, get rid of the email campaigns, the print ads, and all of that? Is there a point for cold calls, or do you think that there's still a place for those in addition to what you're doing? I'm just curious what your thoughts are there.
It's a great question. So I think cold calls are probably starting to be at a point of not being as fruitful as they used to be, right? That specific activity, right? Because it's hard to get through the gatekeeper. Time is even more limited. Resources are even more limited. So warm introductions are really of value. The other thing that I'll simply call out is the regulatory environment to allow for mass marketing by email or other means is really limiting, especially when you're a federally regulated company like Philips, right? With medical devices, there are and pretty much for everybody, there are some very real limitations on picking up an email list from one of these events or sponsorship vendors, industry associations. You can't email 1,000 people the way you used to with a single thing, right? And so I don't think you throw the baby out with the bathwater. Social posts and directed emails and targeted programs through the relationship holders like sales members is a great way to do it. And it's a great way to really personalize the efforts. But it does take an adaptation in how we do stuff. Another good example might be, we used to show up to the trade show floor and you'd have the literally football-sized trade show floor, right? Your booth. And that's great. It's a wonderful way to show what you're doing. It's a wonderful place to launch new products. It's a wonderful place to make headlines if you're launching something new or announcing a new leader or a partnership. Fabulous, right? But the days of your CIO or your radiology director or your CEO walking around the floor, strolling into the booth and saying, "Show me this," those are fading, right? They're much more limited than they used to be. And so the targeted approach of setting meetings and having a purpose is really important. And so I think that trend is really, it's how we do everything else. It's really targeted.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I think you're right. I think they're fading quickly. You go to the HIMSS floor, the CIOs aren't there anymore. When they were there, they were turning their badges around. My title at the last gig that I was at was Innovation and Emerging Technology. There was a bullseye on the front and back of my suit. And so I've been going around, and my first event of the year for the Buzz was a keynote at a sales kickoff. So my sales workshops have been taking off because people want to know how to get behind the scenes and build that trust. you participate in the summit, where we deliver a white paper with partners and actual CIOs that have delivered solutions, and we share it to the industry. And that was a home run hitter because you brought your sales leader to sit in the room with 12 execs that he would have had a hard time meeting any other way, but he came to this very intimate setting in this summit to, one, collaborate first, build rapport over 2.5 days, and then us drive something that was going to help the industry. So I think it is changing, the way you get to innovation and the way you get to retooling your resources inside is through a collaborative relationship of understanding we're moving from A to B. We need people to get there. Our executive leaders still need to be trained and upskilled and become aware. So they're not going to the booths anymore. So how do they get this training, this upskilling, and how do they get to the salesperson that can really help them with their problems? That's the key there. And when I spoke on stage last month, it was really about helping that large room of sales execs get behind the gatekeepers in a way that made sense for their leadership and for the facilities they wanted to talk to. And so that's been a shift that's happening. I enjoy sales. I've carried the bag before. I've led sales, global and international sales teams, domestic sales teams. And so it's really about how do we get to that next evolution of learning what emerging technology conversations will look like, and how do we have them? So at Philips, let's talk about brand. Everyone has a brand nowadays. Everybody's working on their brand. But with the rise of AI and automation, predictive analytics, how are you seeing the innovative and retooling branding efforts take conversation to the next level? What are you seeing in that effort?
Well, so Philips has just actually done a visual identity refresh. So you saw a first blush of that at RSNA back in early December of 2024, and it's in line with everything else we're saying here today, right? It's more streamlined. It's a refreshed look and feel. We are known deeply for innovation here at Philips, and that will continue and remains the cornerstone and foundation of how we bring all of this to bear to the healthcare market. But our focus is always about how do we create better outcomes, right, for more people. And so that actually is the official tagline. And when you go to RSNA or when you come to HIMSS, you'll see above our booth this tagline that says, Philips, better care for more people. And we're serving 1.7 billion people all the time, right? That's a huge number. Philips is, as you say, a well-known and well-marketed industry brand that is global. And so by really focusing our attention on the innovation and the emerging technology, we bring ourselves to the forefront of how we drive the market on that. So we participate in a number of efforts, both North American and global, in terms of regulatory development, how we drive policy, how we look at the economic basis for development in the world, how we look at developing AI responsibly and sustainably, and how we're contributing to the betterment of each of these different components of innovation that is required to really create a holistic value of solutions to all the different care settings and types of healthcare organizations in the world, but also with our partners, right? We can't do it alone. Nobody can do it alone anymore. There's no one vendor out there that can do it alone anymore. And so it's a very real acknowledgement that we have to partner with key people, and you'll see some very exciting announcements around this coming up in the next couple of months. And so I can't give away the ghost yet, or the cow for free, if you will. But
buzz and announce it. We hope you'll come right on over here and put it on the air.
We will talk about that. Absolutely, I agree. The point is that I think there's more around partnership that's going to have to happen, both with solutions vendors, but also with the healthcare organizations.
Yeah, I appreciate that you say targeted approach too, because I remembered being on those floors and going through the different booths and going in and seeing what was new. But sometimes it's just so overwhelming, and you start to talk to those that are in that booth. And honestly, I think they all believed they could solve all of my problems, and I didn't even need to go to another booth. And so just hearing you say, listen, we know that's we can't do that, but also Philips really is in everything. It's amazing. So I appreciate that you both acknowledge that it takes multiple that you target, and that more importantly, you really focus on those partnerships.
It is a balance, always.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we talk about Philips and marketing dollars moving forward, budgets, we've had a couple of other CMOs on to have this conversation because this industry is shifting. We're in conference season now. People have spent hard dollars to attend events, and budgets are always under scrutiny. What's the ROI for going to that event? How many people are we sending? What's our conversion rate? These are the questions, the hard questions that you have to come back with after the event's over. You've been to Vegas, you've been to Nashville, you've been to Miami, you've been to Europe somewhere and parts in between, Dubai. So those marketing dollars being under scrutiny, talk to me. When do you look at the marketing dollars for Philips, and where do you value spending the most money or the most effort, which could be money or resources? Because that's the number one problem that people are starting to hurdle over today.
Yeah, resources are tight. Money is tight. I mean, that's true on the vendor side as well as it is the provider side, right? And so, the real question is for both: where's the bang for the buck, right? So, where are we going to show up together in order to have these fruitful conversations? I still don't think we're ever going to get all the way back to pre-pandemic numbers at these trade shows, and I think everybody has started to sort of understand that. I think the other thing that you'll start seeing sort of broadly is really big companies like Philips will start changing our posture at some of these events. And again, I'm not going to give away the secrets that are coming in the next couple of months, but you'll see it when we do these things at HIMSS together. The way we show up is going to be a little bit different. There's a huge focus on thought leadership. There's a huge focus on driving awareness of what we're doing, the posture in the market, how we're driving innovation, with whom we're doing that, both solutions partners and the healthcare organizations, and what those benefits really are, right? So it's making sure people know, along with these new ways of doing marketing, what it is that we're doing differently and why. That means potentially changing booth sizes. It means changing the way we show what we show in booth, right? It may be more experiential versus sort of your standard demo that we've all been a party to over the years. It means doing a lot of content like this. This is a great example of a way to reach people in that one-to-many fashion. There's going to be a lot more development around customer stories. There's obviously, we want to tell the stories that are successful with our clients. And, there's always been the case study, and there's always been the podcast or the video snippet. And I think you'll see an acceleration of those. There's an old, I don't know if it's an old, but I'm going to call it old mantra in marketing, where it's for a single piece of content, you got to use it 7 different ways. And that could mean internal and external, right? So you've got to think of the mix, but marketing is not only to everybody outside, you've got to get everybody inside of the company, especially the big plays, excited about all the things we're doing. And so we have to sort of think in 2 different ways about how we bring that to bear. Yes, there are always KPIs that we have to meet in terms of events in particular, right? But there are different ones. It's not always necessarily leads or scans. Sometimes it's how many impressions did we get? Sometimes it's how many recordings did we do on site with a key opinion leader like each of you. Sometimes it's truly is how many scans did we get and how many will convert and what does that fill our funnel. But the end of it is truly how do we pour into the top of the funnel and how do we push down to make it go faster, right? And so all of these different tactics have a different way of doing that and a different point in that funnel of which they're pushing on.
Yeah. And I appreciate, even though it may be an old saying, I think of it in terms of learning and retaining information. It's the same concept, right? That you have to hear something 7 different times in seven different ways in order to lay that down into your muscle memory. So that makes sense to me when you're talking about using that content in that way. How do you know, though, when it actually is landed? You talked about impressions. Are there other ways that you can measure that success to know whether or not your investment has been worth your effort?
Well, so funnel conversion depends on the company and what you're selling, right? So, or opportunity conversion is probably a better way to say that. Depends on what you're selling. Some sales cycles are very short, a month or two. Some are 18 to 24 months, most of what we sell in software, at least at Philips and in my prior history. And that's pretty common, but you do have to watch how opportunities are moving through the funnel and collaborate very closely with the sales team to make sure that they're documenting their touch points, that they're benefiting from the things you're pushing out, that you understand what they're hearing, and that we really work together in order to create sort of a holistic set of enablement tools for them to go out into the market and do their jobs too, right? So the jobs of marketing, in for all intents and purposes, really is just to fund the sales team with what they need and fund the market with what they need to understand that we do, right? So two sides of the same coin, different ways to go about doing those things.
I love that. I love it. You distilled it down in a way that just made complete sense to me. It just clicked. I never thought about marketing enabling the sales. I should have, but that just, the way you said it, that was so good, Aaron. I like that.
Well, thanks. I mean, you guys have always gotten the phone calls before, right? From the sales team and the people saying, come meet with me at HIMSS, or, hey, check out this white paper, right? That's somebody in marketing somewhere gave that to that person, and hopefully it benefited you.
Hopefully there was an ROI and a check following it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, let's talk about that at those conferences. We're in conference season. We're going to see you at Vibe and at HIMSS that are coming up. You're actually going to be on camera with us again out in Las Vegas, you and some of your team. So that's going to be fun. But let's just talk about these conferences. Let's talk about, some people swear by them. Some say they're not. They're just one big networking boondoggle. Tell me how you're feeling about the conferences. What are you looking for as we're going into 2025? I got folks already planning for 2026. As most people know, Maureen and I are on a road show, a speakers tour. What are you looking for out of some of these big events? And with limited ROI to be seen while at the show, where do you stand on your conference run for 2025?
Well, first and foremost, I'm excited to see you in Nashville and in Vegas. It's always a pleasure to spend time with both of you. I think for Philips, what you'll see is a more concerted approach to how we do it, right? So you won't see quite as many people on the floor, right? But a very directed approach to how we get to the market and who we bring and what we do there. As I already mentioned before, we're changing the look and feel and how we do it. But meetings are still important. I am a person that believes in in-person engagement. And if you can find the right people at the right event by doing the targeting and doing the advanced planning, it becomes fruitful, right? You can see opportunities develop. You could see opportunities progress. But Mike, you called out the summit, the Future Care Spaces Summit specifically. And there's a really valuable place for very specific engagements like that too, where you really get to know people, you build deep relationships, and that becomes a lasting thing as well. And so there's a place and a time for both. There's a mix through the year. You will see, we're a global team here at Philips, and my team is global in response to that. What you'll see is different things at different events, right? At some, you may see that we don't have a booth or meeting space at all. At places like HIMSS, we definitely will have that stance, right? And so, so it depends on what you're trying to achieve with each given in-person engagement. But more importantly, each in-person engagement can't be only an in-person engagement, right? There's got to be a pre, during, and post. And where a lot of people fall off is the post, because you've done, everybody's taken a breath now. It takes a little bit of time to push all of the leads and scans to the commercial team. Now what? Right? But there's content you gathered at the show. There's leads you gathered at the show. There's relationships you built at the show. There are new opportunities that came forward that you didn't know about that were at the show. Now you've got to prosecute those afterwards. And the follow through, much like golf or tennis or baseball or any other thing we do, you've got to follow through. And that's how you get the distance out of it.
Thank you very much.
So I don't think then it's an either or approach is what I'm hearing you say, that they complement each other essentially. So there's a need to have that large conference presence, and at the same time really having those intimate conversations with your stakeholders to understand what their needs are. Am I picking that up correctly?
I don't know that I'd use the phrase large conference presence. I think we have to have a conference presence, right?
Okay.
And actually, I'd even change that to an engagement presence, because I don't love the words trade show, even though that's often what they are.
Yeah.
And I don't know that conference is really the right word either, because I don't know that's what we're doing all the time. But it's engagement, right? We're meeting, we're planning, we're figuring things out, we're sorting what's next. We're building relationships. I think it's the new all-encompassing term that I like for these in-person and virtual and digital engagements.
I like that. Very nice, Aaron. Very nice.
Aaron, I will tell you, this has been an incredible conversation. We're at time over here, and we could probably go for another hour, but we're going to get that time back real soon. Thank you very much for joining us and giving us this behind-the-scenes look at Philips marketing and the evolution of you and in your Philips journey in this industry. I guess we're going to hear some more coming out of that over the next several weeks. So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to seeing you, looking forward to seeing your executive team. And so we hope to, continue this conversation, have you back on again. We'd love having you as one of our media partners. So we're going to be doing this over and over again and educating the industry on where marketing is going, where branding is going, and look for the experts who are doing it the best. And they're climbing that hill of sales attainment, but they're doing it with the help of marketing and branding and the likes of Maureen and I to help along the way.
Well, it's truly an honor. Thank you both for having us. And we're honored to be the diamond sponsor of the Buzz podcast and to our future partnership together. So it's going to be a fruitful year. Looking forward to 25 with you all and the rest of our clients out there and our partners. So we look forward to seeing everybody on the road, in the computer, and in our content.
Oh, I am excited that you are a diamond partner. And Aaron, again, thank you. I became more educated. I know our listeners have become more educated. And if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe and follow the Buzz Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be bringing you the latest insights from the top voices in healthcare and innovation.
Until next time, stay buzzing, stay innovating, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Buzz. Thank you.